Man, that was fun. First bit of business to attend to. I'll never turn up to a Derby game ever again. I'll cover all future Derby games from home. If this is the kind of performance that they produce, I will burn my press pass and stomp the ashes into the ground, and I'll just cover everything from here. That seems to work very nicely. So yeah, we'll do that instead. The game, man, where should we start? They were all absolutely brilliant. To a man, they were all brilliant. Hello, Adam. Yeah, they were all absolutely brilliant. Clean sheet, you can't argue with that. That's 5 in 6. It's remarkable how Wayne Rooney has defensively made this team just a lot more solid and gritty and determined to be. And like Birmingham didn't offer anything really. Like they didn't really offer. There was one shot from I think it was Clayton that went through Wisdom's legs and it goes wide. But that was like kind of it. They were really deadly from like set pieces tonight. They get the Colin Kazim-Richards goal from one. The Bielik goal comes from one. And they had like Matt Clark had a couple. He definitely should have done better with at least one of those. And Clark had 2 of them against I think it was Coventry, but it might have been Wickham. But I think it was Coventry. 2 Tom Lawrence corners like back to back come in, and he has a free run at both of them, and one he nods wide, and the other is actually a really good save, and Evans has a go at it as well. But like Clark should have at least a couple of goals to his name by now. He just should. So yeah, there's that kind of attacking. So that Derby, and I mentioned this on a previous digest, Derby had a problem with Jason Knight. Not Jason Knight in himself, but his position. He's not a 10, but he was being asked to play at the tip as a 10. And I don't know if it's McLaren's influence. I don't know if it's Wayne. I don't know who's done it, but someone clearly went, let's just make him an 8 and make it a flat 4-3-3. And it works. It just works. The Bielik is brilliant. Don't get me wrong, he is absolutely wonderful, but the foil he has around him allows him to be that good as well. The energy of Shinnie and Knight either side, who are both have a lot of differences, but have similarities that you want in a foil around someone like Bielik. So they both have a lot of energy. They're both strong in the tackle. I think Knight is maybe a bit more adventurous, and I think Shinnie defensively has a bit more nous in terms of his defensive positioning. That's fine because he's pretty much played that role his entire career anyway. So he sweeps up a bit better, and I think Knight is able to join in attacks a bit better than Shinnie. But the energy, the intensity, the way they tackle, they bite in the tackle, it provides a great foil for Bielik to basically do his thing. And that isn't to say that Bielik can't tackle and intercept, because he can. Kamil Jóźwiak, Kamil Jóźwiak. I said all the time, and I watched a good handful of his games at Lech Poznan. The things that stood out were he was really tricky, left foot, right foot, didn't really mind which one he went with, but his end product kind of sucked. But at some point, every player's end product sucks. You develop that, and also players have end products in like the 23s in the academy that is great. That doesn't translate to the first team. So there's no set way of how that end product gets there. But there was enough on display to believe that Jóźwiak would get there. I thoroughly believe, and I've said this to people at Derby, I've said this to anyone that will listen, I thoroughly believe that they have got a star on their hands. Can he take that next step and go even further? Who knows? And by even further, I mean like the Premier League. And we'd be that with Derby or another team. You know, one would assume if he gets there, either Derby get there or they get a really good fee for him. And, you know, that's just being realistic. But he can be a star at this level. He is really so positive. And not only does he have all the attacking flair that you want from that player, but he's gritty. So in the game against Preston, he had the absolute snot beaten out of him. And I think Preston tried to rough him up, not in a malicious way, but to try and unsettle him, make him, you know, not maybe want the ball as much. And he kept picking himself up. He kept going back for more. He wants the football. And when he wants it, he wants to go in the direction of forward. And he doesn't really care who stands in his way. The cross for the Jason Knight goal is that's world class. And like that to produce that was brilliant. He chops in on his right and he just bends this ball in, and Nathan Byrne is screaming for the ball on the overlap, because Byrne's actually in a good position on the overlap, and that ball is absolutely delicious. Any striker midfield running onto that wants that ball. It was glorious. Kazim Richards, I mentioned this on Twitter at half-time. He's got 3 goals already. No, it's not going to blow your mind and blow you away. Chris Martin had 4 at this stage last season. This isn't to sort of play them off against each other about who Derby fans like more. It's about he was seen as the replacement for Chris Martin. And so far, yeah, wallop. He's done a good job. Again, he was an outlet, a really good outlet for them. And I think as Derby started to play between the lines more and not kick it long to him, he actually started to drop deeper than usual and bring players into play. That's really, really good. You have to say, I know it hurts that Martin left, but you have to say not being able to come to terms with Martin on a deal and bringing in Kazim Richards, even if he wasn't your first choice striker, has been pretty good. Now, it's a small body of work so far. Let's see. But through the 7 games he started under Rooney, you can have very few complaints, I believe, of his play. Louis Sibley tonight should have had a goal. He kept just getting into these threatening positions all the time on that left. And I when I saw the team sheet, was not a fan of Sibley being out wide, because I just believe he does his best work centrally on the whole. But then I guess I can just shut my fat mouth because he was excellent. And he wasn't like getting chalk on his boots like a winger. He kept just slowly drifting in, which then sort of it condensed what Birmingham were trying to do. And it made the opposition fullbacks in it. It put them in a little bit of a bind. It meant Forsyth could go on the outside of him when he had that kind of room, or a midfielder could peel off and go on the other side of him. He was brilliant tonight. Really, really positive, really good. The natural comebacks of this will be, it was against Birmingham. Yes, it was. So what? Who cares? Derby have been largely pretty poor this season and have not scored that many goals. That's a performance. That's a performance you can build on. If you can't build on a performance like that, then what can you build on? So the quality of opposition is a legit point, but considering where Derby are as a team, it kind of balances it out. Who cares? They just went away and whooped somebody's arse. Take it. Hold on to it, grasp it, and hug it tight, because that was brilliant. Who else? Shout out for the debut boys. Gordon and Watson. Gordon, I mean, I'm 28 and I still think I'm young. Like, look at me. I'm young. I look good. I'm in turtlenecks. I'm a young man. You're all young men and women as well. He makes me feel so old. He's 16, hasn't played a game for the 23s yet, but he is getting appearances, getting minutes for the seniors. And all right, it's a couple of minutes plus injury time, but that's such a good moment for him personally, and that will give him all the belief in the world that he can kick on and, get good minutes in the under-18s and the under-23s and make that pathway up to the first team. Brilliant, wonderful stuff. Don't think there is much more I can comment on that. Keep this team, keep this 11, providing any setbacks or little niggles and knocks or whatever, just keep this 11, because you go into a game on New Year's Day against Sheffield Wednesday, and they, very much like Birmingham, are ripe for the picking. See that fruit up there? Yeah, pluck that fruit. Pluck it. They're ripe for the picking. They've just changed their manager again. Sheffield Wednesday are reeling right now. You can go to Sheffield Wednesday, and there is no reason that Derby can't score 2 or 3 again. Yeah, it was brilliant. I will now get to your questions. How long does it take to get Jordan Ibe fit? This is a good question. And I know I took some shit for this online when I posted it. I can only report what I get told. I'm always told that it's a fitness issue. He needs his fitness tailoring. Now, the longer that goes on, the more questions it does invite. But I can hardly go sort of searching and digging into that, like when a game is afoot. But I accept the frustrations from fans that, it does feel a little bit like it's taking the mick. Now, for those that pointed out his wages, and you always want to return on your wages and stuff like that as a club. I'm led to believe that Jordan Ibe's wages are peanuts. I'm talking like real slim pickings. And also heavily incentivized contract, I believe Jordan Ibe is If that's the case, while this sucks, and yes, obviously you're still getting paid, it's not like it's a massive hit every week in the balance sheet. So there's at least that. So yeah, good evening to you now. Yeah, they did look a lot more solid, Adam. Lewis, and I think I saw this from Alfie as well. Durson commenting on Derby's Instagram. Durson wants to come to the club. Derby want Durson to come to their football club. Now, when that happens, that usually means good things happen. Now, there are, and someone pointed out to me before that the Brexit rules wouldn't apply, so there's no worries there. The Brexit laws that would come into effect over certain transfers. Sorry, that's my cat in the background. They wouldn't apply to Durson because I think he already has eligibility. They were very, very keen on him in the summer. They just wouldn't meet the asking price from SV Darmstadt. But they were very keen on him, and he them as well. Now, he, I think, has got 9 goals and 3 assists in 13 games. And he's 30, so he's probably in his peak right now. And would provide competition and probably a longer-term solution to Kazim Richards. Kazim Richards being 34. If you get 1 more year out of him, great. If you can get 3 years out of Durson, wallop, nice one. But yeah, my understanding is that they are really, really keen to make this happen in January. Both parties are really keen to make it happen. And they will get him for a lot less than the 1.1 million euros because, again, his contract is up in 6 months. Derby believe they could get him for about half that price. So that's always good. Can you see Lawrence getting back into the side? Chris, yeah, but not right now. I don't think if the squad is always going to be picked on merit, if the team is always going to be picked on merit, you pick this team barring like you might have to make like one rotational change because someone's tired. But the core group, I'm talking like the 8 players that you're going to start, you don't change them because it's going to be picked on merit. Just keep rolling with the same side. But I do believe just because Lawrence is a natural wide man that he'll get more minutes. Until guys like, I mean, his ankle problem was touch and go for this game and the last game. So he'll probably make at least the bench for the Wednesday game. But based on tonight, Louis Sibley should absolutely start. Based on tonight, this team shouldn't change at all. If you want to bring in more players from the bench, fine. But this first 11 shouldn't change at all. But yeah, I can still see Lawrence getting into the team. I think under Rooney, he might have a shorter leash than under Koku, but I still think he gets back into the team. Yes, James did cover the game from home tonight. Man, I am never, ever getting back in Pride Park, am I? Oh, boy. Yeah, I charted up all the games that I've covered from home. And yes, they've won. Every time I've covered a game from home, they have won. They also picked a point up against Bournemouth as well when I covered them from home. I think the only negative result Derby have picked up when I've covered the game from home was the Borough game when they got beat 3-0. And I was like, man, glad I'm at home for that. Not so glad I'm at home anyway. What covering this? But either way, yeah, I was covering it from home. Takeover news, none. And I think I said this on a previous video. When we did our big piece, myself, Matt Slater, Adam Crafton, when we did our big piece on the prospective new owners, there were red flags in the Newcastle deal, in the Liverpool deal. there were red flags to be had then. Similar ones to, I suppose, kind of what you could feel now. I think you're looking at, I mean, the EFL rubber stamped it, but we're still to see any formal documentation of that. Things like cash flow, all those sorts of things. So yeah, there were red flags in those potential takeovers, and it looks like red flags have flared up yet again. But there is still, having said all of that, there's still nothing to suggest that the deal is off, just that there are complications. And as I previously said in, I think, another video, and I might even put it on Twitter, if Derby as a club were going to come out and make a statement and say, we're confident that we will get there before Christmas, you then kind of make a rod for your own back when it doesn't happen. And Derby haven't released a statement since outlining why it hasn't happened since Christmas. You have to have that kind of dialogue and communication with everyone, with your fan base, most importantly with your fan base, with journalists who want to know, and players read this as well. Players are seeing this and they want to know as well. So yeah, when you set that deadline and then that deadline comes and goes and there's still nothing, and we're what now 3 days out from the new year, and therefore the transfer window opening, yeah, it's a little bit concerning. Let's just see. Sheffield Wednesday 2-0 up against Borough. Oh, for Christ's sake. Do you think plan B on the transfer front is loans? Yeah, Nav, I think so. They said they're prepared for every eventuality. I think part of that does involve loans, but even in the loan market, you still have to cut your cloth accordingly, because Phil Jones is the example I used in the last video. If Derby are serious about getting Phil Jones, that can only happen if the takeover happens, because his wages will be massive. You can't foot those wages. So yeah, loans I imagine will be the route to go down if they don't have a completed takeover. But even that has layers to it as well, because what kind of player can you bring in on loan? Because the party that loans you the player might have a percentage of the wages that they want you to pay. They might have a percentage of the bonuses that they want you to pay. They might have a loan fee that they want you to pay. So all of that kind of builds into it as well. Why has Sibley been out of the team, do you think? I honestly think that it was nothing sinister other than Rooney was going with experience. Rooney, when you look at the first 11 that Rooney named for the Wycombe game, there were 7 changes in there, and I think Knight was the only player. I definitely know he started, but Knight might have been the only player that was sort of the homegrown kid, if you know what I mean. And I think that's because of the position Derby are in. Rooney and the rest of the coaching staff and whoever's making the decisions, but ultimately lying with Rooney, they all had to, make the decision that they needed some experience right now. I don't think it's anything sinister for Sibley. I don't think it's any danger or anything like that. I think it was just that. And look, when you start and put in a performance like that, you put a marker down and say, like, look, I should be starting definitely the next game. Morgan Whittaker, kind of similar. His is a little bit more tricky because obviously he was a sub that was then subbed, and Rooney was... Sorry, that's my cat again. And Rooney was then made it clear that, he gave him a decision to make. He didn't want to make it, but you have to make them tough decisions as a manager. Also believed that it was an admission that he had made the wrong change in the first place, but we can argue the toss with that. I think Morgan could benefit from going back to the 23s. See, even Picasso's happy about the dub tonight. I think Morgan benefits go back to the 23s for a little bit, get a gate, and then get on the bench and get 20 minutes or so. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about those guys too much. They'll do just fine. Rooney for manager now. Adam Luma. I think it's difficult. Look, with every game that goes by, it's difficult to remove him from that position. It's difficult to remove him from that position. 5 clean sheets in 6. They've lost 1 in the last 7. It gets really hard to remove him from that. And now this win, a big win away from home, 4 goals scored, clean sheet kept. And he gave him debut to a couple of academy players. All right, it's only a couple of minutes, but he gave it to a couple of academy players. So his case with every game gets stronger. And at this point, for the lack of the Derby need continuity everywhere. They need to sort out their manager. They need to sort out takeover. They need to sort out their players under whose contracts are running out, and they need to obviously sort out transfers as well. You can put some stability in place by just giving Wayne Rooney the job, and if nothing else, with the aid of the coaching staff, Rossignol, Given, Walker, and McLaren, across 8 games that body of work is solid enough to suggest that, yeah. I mean, look, Sheffield Wednesday thought, 42 days and 10 games, whatever it is, was a solid enough body of work to get rid of Pulis. Now, they are obviously a club that is reeling, but you can get a decent enough sample size there over the teams they've played as well to suggest, yeah, why the hell not? Let's get him in. Let's back him. Let's use his contacts. This is now the obligatory point where you all roll your eyes and whinge. I will always bring up that he isn't a qualified coach. I have to do that because that's balanced. That is just balanced. But what is also balanced is football is a results-based business, so who cares? There we go. He's not technically qualified, but he's got results, so it doesn't even matter. How exciting are our youth players? They also, I admittedly not watched as much football of the academy this season as I would like, but from what I have seen, it's pretty much the conveyor belt just keeps churning these kids out. That's really exciting to see. Obviously, they won't all make it. Percentages, law of averages, football, they just won't. But what you hope is, and Derby have got great behind the scenes set up at the academy. You hope that those that don't make it have a very good stepping stone into another career, even in football. I think all those kids are in brilliant hands at the football club. How much is Rooney and how much is Stevie Mack? It's a good question, Peter. The honest answer is I don't know, but I know that he's involved in sides of it with the training and stuff. And I think that's part of the course of the technical director anyway. But when you look at them against Swansea, when you look at them tonight and think there are some McLaren isms in this team, again, going back to a sort of very conventional 4-3-3. But yeah, and look, Rooney has never shied away from saying he will lean on McLaren if he needs to, because he accepts that he doesn't know everything. But ultimately, Rooney is picking the team, and Rooney is making the adjustments, and Rooney sets out how he wants the team to play for the large part. If McLaren has his influence, I imagine they'll tweak it as and when is needed. But yeah, he is having an influence, but he's not running the show. But he's having an influence, and a good influence. Like, you can't argue with the results. It's a good influence. Yeah, Adam, you're right. It does work, mate. Qualifications, or regardless, this setup is working right now. If the takeover doesn't happen, can we afford Rooney and McLaren long term? Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest so. I mean, McLaren is, yeah, I would suggest, I think they could. I think manager wages, I don't think count towards FFP only when you get rid of them, because they count as a loss. But I don't believe because I think that was kind of part of the way they could get Rooney in as a player coach, because coaches' wages don't count towards FFP, so you can hide them somewhere. But yeah, I think I think they do enough accounting to make it work. Would we have had the same results without them, in your opinion? I honestly don't know, Peter, because this was such a big step into the unknown for all of us. You know, Wayne Rooney as manager, no one knows what you're going to get, because you can't. You don't, because he's never been a manager, so we just didn't know. So it's hard for me to say no, they wouldn't have, or yes, they would have. What is the case with the Rooney contract since he's no longer playing? Our 32 Red still covering the vast majority of his wages. So good. That is an excellent question, James, and it's one that I should probably look into, because it's not something that has occurred to me until now. Such is life when you're trying to work on takeover and trying to chase up new manager and all this stuff. Some things naturally fall about the wayside. That very intricate and very good little bit is something that I kind of was like, oh, sugar, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. I think what happened with the 32 Red was, it's not like 32 Red are giving Derby like money every week. What happened is Rooney signed and 32 Red activated a clause giving them 1.5 million in a star player contract, or a star player bonus. Yeah, you're not taking my job, James. So they got Rooney in a star player bonus for 32 Red. Lampard had the same when he was there as manager, and Derby were offered the same when Ashley Cole came as well. Now, my understanding is it's not like they're giving them money every week. My understanding was they were given Derby were given 1.5 million as part of this deal. So if that is the case, I imagine that 32 Red aren't sort of funding it week by week, as it were. It's just basically they've got the money and Derby have done what they wanted to do with the money. Sorry, my answer would remain the same, Peter. It's just so difficult to say, mate. It's just really difficult to say, because, it would... I think I'd do Rooney a massive disservice to say, no, definitely they wouldn't have got the same results without McLaren's influence. And I'd do the coaching staff a big disservice as well. But you do have to also tip your hat and say, well, look, McLaren's there. His experience is being leaned on. I'm sure it has contributed in some way. But I don't think it's solely responsible for it. Right, guys, 25 minutes. I am off and out of here. I think I'm off tomorrow. I should probably work that out. I think I'm off tomorrow. Anyway, this is the last Derby Digest of 2020. I hope you all had a great Christmas, and happy New Year to all of you and your family. I missed your. Ask it again in the next digest, Peter. Write it down and ask me again. Hope you all have a very happy new year, guys and girls. Thank you all so much for tuning into this. It honestly means the world. It's absolutely great that we've created this little thing here. Yeah, all enjoy, folks, and I'll see you all New Year's Day. I'll see you all then. Take care. Bye.